This is Sid, and you're listening to The Economic Story. In today's episode, we will deal with an important question considering what is happening in the markets. Today, Bitcoin crossed the price milestone of 57,000 US dollars per coin. So what I plan to explore is the question, is Bitcoin a currency? Throughout its recent history, Bitcoin has been a truly loved topic of conversation. One of the reasons behind this is the fact that it has managed to polarize people. Some hate it with their lives, while others love it with their lives. Some believe in the technology, while not in the asset. Some are very confused about what it means, while others remain clueless, even though it has been explained to them like 500 times. One of the reasons it has entered people's imagination is its wide price fluctuations. If you haven't followed it, here is a bit of a history. In Jan 2016, it traded to about 428 US dollars. In Jan 2017, it traded to about 940 US dollars. In December 2017, it reached a near-term peak of about 19,862 US dollars. In January 2019, it reached a near-term trough, which is down below to a near-term bottom of 3,359 US dollars. In November 2021, it reached the current standing all-time high of 68,906 US dollars. In November 2022, it reached another midterm bottom of about 15,516 US dollars. Currently, it appears to be moving higher to about 57,000 beyond. Let's see where it'll head. Another reason why it grabs so much attention is the fact that people find it very difficult to define as to what it is. Is it a security? Or is it a currency? Or is it a commodity? Now, if they don't know, they just keep thinking and debating. While there are definitions coming from the regulatory side, I'm not talking about that. How the regulators define an asset is definitely important for whole swaths of reasons. Compliance, taxation, risk management, etc. That being said, it is also important to have a general understanding of the nature of an asset. It will not only help with the management of the asset, but it would also allow you to adapt better should the regulators at some point in time decide to change their mind. So, is Bitcoin a currency? To answer that question, we need to know what is a currency and what it is not. So, what is a currency? Think about it. You use a currency to buy stuff. You get a currency when you sell stuff. Well, you don't use a currency to eat, wear, or to burn. Well, to give you heat, though that is a possibility in extreme conditions. Let's take an example. Let's say you decide to buy lithium using US dollars. There are two potential reasons why you decide to buy lithium. And these are essentially two reasons why you see value in lithium. Number one, you plan to use lithium to make batteries. This I'll call the consumption value. Next one is that you see the prices of lithium has come down and you expect the prices to go higher. At that point in time, you plan to essentially sell the lithium for a profit. This specific value scenario I'll call the trade value. Let's assume that while you're holding that lithium, something happens. Something potentially big happens and it creates three scenarios. In the first scenario, let's say the global economy goes through its normal ups and downs, along with the US economy also going through its ups and downs. And then you eventually find a good price point to sell that lithium. And you basically make an expected profit and you get out of that trade with that profit. Number two scenario is that depression hits the global economy, let's say. Big scenario, obviously. But in this context, let's say the US economy is booming still. Now USD suddenly becomes something everybody wants, and USD prices start to rise exponentially, even compared to lithium. Now lithium prices thus comparatively would drop. Now you'd be making a massive loss on that lithium though, if you wanted to use USD as a trade. Number 3 scenario is where, let's say, US dollar loses its reserve currency status for whatever reason. Again, a speculative scenario. Okay, and thus the price of USD starts to fall, essentially like a rock. Now, if you sell lithium for US dollar, you'd be making a huge profit on that. But you don't know how far US dollar is going to go, and you don't even know whether it's going to be worth anything for you or not. What if it is dissolved? So you decide to rather take euro in terms of selling that lithium instead. I'll give you a 4th scenario. Let's say the world hits a depression due to an ongoing devaluation of fiat currencies. So trade starts to move to more of a barter system. Let's say there aren't even any options of any cryptocurrencies out there for whatever reason. Now all fiat currencies will start to go down, essentially going through another free fall basically, and the commodity prices would start to spike. So at this point in time, you decide to hold on to that lithium because you believe that the lithium might provide you a better persistence of value because the fiat currencies may be of no use in the future. The point is that in practice, what is a currency and what it is not is determined based off of the nature of objects that are exchanged in a transaction and what is their expected value and feature. What you buy and what you sell is not a currency. It tends to be called more of a product or a merchandise, sometimes even service. What you provide while buying something is the currency, and what you get while selling something is the currency. Thus, an entity in a transaction becomes a currency when it has some of the following values or properties. Number 1, if it has a higher stability of price or, let's say, persistence of value as compared to what is the product or the other thing. Otherwise, think about it. Why would you sell something the price of which is going to go up? You would rather invest in it. And then on the other hand, why would you buy something whose price is expected to go down? You would rather divest away from it, isn't it? Now, it tends to have a higher level of liquidity is the other property. Why would you take something that you cannot easily trade? Think about it. Would the entire Canadian population be okay with a proposal wherein they get paid in GICs with a lockup period instead of cash, even though the valuation of the GIC is exactly the same as the cash? Plus, the GIC also pays an interest. The answer is no, because GICs with the lockup periods would not have sufficient amount of liquidity. And they need liquidity for their currency. The number 3 of the properties is a lower transaction cost. Now, sometimes you can also wrap that up into liquidity because the transaction cost might in fact show up in the liquidity. So finally, let's get back to the question, is Bitcoin a currency? The answer to this question depends on what transaction we are talking about. I mean, what is being exchanged for a Bitcoin? Here are a few examples. If Bitcoin is used in a transaction against a US dollar, in today's date, USD will be likely the one that is going to act more like a currency. If instead, Bitcoin is used in a transaction, let's say, to buy or sell Solana, in that case, Bitcoin might act more as a currency, assuming that Solana is more volatile, has less of a liquidity. Let's conclude. So in today's world, when Bitcoin prices remains highly volatile and it has a relatively low liquidity, it will act less as a currency, at least against the more liquid fiat currencies. But it might still act more like a currency, let's say against assets such as another cryptocurrency, maybe a volatile currency such as the Turkish lira, or even some high beta stocks. In future though, if we get to a point where Bitcoin's value becomes much more stable and it becomes widely acceptable, while let's say a dream scenario or a nightmare scenario maybe even, where British pound becomes more volatile, Bitcoin might end up getting used as more of a currency to buy and sell British pounds. Definitely a speculative statement, but it does explain the concept. Last but not the least, even if Bitcoin is not acting much as a currency today, it is not necessarily a bad thing for the investment case for Bitcoin. And in the future, if Bitcoin ends up becoming more of a currency, it may not necessarily end up being a good thing for the investment case for Bitcoin. Well, I hope I was able to help you understand this question: is Bitcoin a currency? Well, that is it for today. Thanks for listening to the Economic Story. Have a great day.